from, uh, basically objectives. Some people are here because some people are not wanting the whole yet. Some people are here because they want to understand what it takes to start and know more. In fact, almost 60% of the people who fill the form said they want to understand what it takes to start and run a call, right? Or become a manager. Almost 60% of the time. So um, that's a great thing. It means that there is a consciousness. There's a consciousness for us to do things way better. And I'm happy that that is happening. So I don't want to take all the time. I just want us to start with an introduction. We'll do proper introduction for people today. Since all of you went and sat behind, so we'll skip the front seat and introduce from the back today. Is that fine? So, um, sorry, ma'am. We have a rule that we don't let anybody sit in front of an empty seat. So, is it possible to just come up either to the front? Uh, just make sure you're not sitting in front of an empty seat. Um, there's so many people here, actually. So now making us look like we are very partial. The people this way are looking like celebrities. The people this way are looking like we don't want to connect with them. And that's not fair, right? Okay. So we're going to start with an introduction. Everyone, you get to say your name. You get to say what you do. If you run a hub, say you run a hub. If you don't run a hub yet, tell us what you do. Tell us that you don't run a hub yet. If you like to start a hub. What else should you tell us? Tell us where you're based. If you're Port or you're out of Port. Okay. So where should I start? I used to run to raw. Do you guys understand that? Which of you grew up in a place, a part where I grew up? Used to run to raw. Alright, I can see. Okay, so I just felt we should start. That's where the lot fell.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Uche, and I'm representing Co at 50 Limited today. We already run a home. We're located at Startupsouth. So we are doing this training so that we can have more knowledge and improve on our services. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jamie. I work with Future Square. I'm the committee and co-manager at the agency, based in Port Harcourt.
Why don't we pass it this way?
Exactly.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Philip Obiora. I'm the hub manager for Accelerators Innovation Hub, and I'm also the co-organizer for VUG Cloud Port Harcourt.
Good morning. My name is Cyril P. Foundation Manager of Education Foundation. We are setting up a fund the form inaugural part of the state.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nnamdi Asora. I am the founder and CEO of LifeShare mobile app. This is my second time coming to Startupsouth, and it's been really, really informative. I'm here to connect with people as well as showcase LifeShare as well. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. You're all welcome. I am delighted to chair I serve as the head of talent for Afrilabs and Futures Fair. So I'm your host today, and I'm super excited that you're all here seated to be part of the Home Leaders Seminar. Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Amir Oko from Edith Savannah Foundation. We are about setting the hope. Thank you.
Oron, Akwa Ibom State.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chuko Takosnas. I'm actually at least my second time at this time. I'm here to learn and know what all this work and actually evaluate my own.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christiana Ibinapo Basifima. I work with Stakeholder Democracy Network. We have the Kensarua Innovation Hub in town. So we are here to see how we can acquire more skills to improve the management of our hub. Thank you very much.
Let me get my microphone back. So thank you, everyone. The purpose that I should start with Kenneth. So,
Hi everyone, my name is Kenneth Kuchku. I'm the Member Services Manager. I'm also Community Manager of Afrilabs. Afrilabs is an African network of over 340 hubs across 2 African countries. So it's nice to be here to meet everyone. Thank you.
before we give, somebody just walked in. Sorry, sir, you just walked in at the right time. You can come to the
He was here already.
Oh, you were here. Okay, so just introduce yourself. Tell us your name, what you do. If you're really running off, tell us what your hub. We didn't add that part, but it's fine. What your hub does. If you don't, still tell us what you do, right? And then where your things.
My name is Ugochukwu. But most people know me as Long Sage. That's my paid name. I'm a writer. Long Sage. Long Sage. LUNSAGE.
Oh, Long Sage.
Yes, that's my name. I'm a writer and business consultant. And I do a lot of things from consultancy. I actually need a sponsor or a partner. Because I've done a lot, go publishing online on Amazon, but I have a lot of works. But I discovered I don't have the financial capacity. Somehow, I'm looking for a way to express myself better. And I saw this online. Though I didn't know what it was about, but I said, let me check up here to see if I can see like minds.
Welcome. Thank you, Long Stage. All right. You can sit.
It's okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anna Ekelido. I am the Executive Director of Afrilabs, the network of organizations across Africa. I'm quite happy to be here with Startupsouth, with Mr. Uche. And yeah, I'm excited to share knowledge today. So, today we'd like it to be as interactive as possible, right? One of the things we say running a hub, we set up a hub, and running a hub is that there isn't a one shoe fits all. So, what we'll be sharing today will basically be, the basic foundation of what to do and the different things to consider. But we'd like it to be as interactive as possible. I'd like to hear your motivations for setting up a hub for those who haven't set up yet, and some of your challenges in running an existing hub as well. So yeah, quite excited to be here. And I'm based in Abuja. I came in 2 days ago. Had an excellent time so far.
All right, thank you, Anna. So my name is Uche Amiche, the convener of Startupsouth. So Startupsouth is this startup ecosystem development and advocacy organization that is inspiring the growth of high skill ventures. Actually, founders building high skill ventures across the southeast of Nigeria. That's our goal essentially. We provide knowledge, provide education, startup education, knowledge. We engage with, you know, different stakeholders, including policymakers, to try and create an enabling environment for startups to thrive and support the startups themselves, including helping them get funding, um, helping them get the right set of talent to support their growth. So the stakeholders I talked about include hubs, right? Includes hubs. We partner with hubs to make sure that their work is also very, um, their work is progressing. The jobs they do is receiving the type of support that is required, and they are able to uh, fit into our own vision of producing high-scale ventures across the region. So that's what Startupsouth does in a nutshell. Okay. Um, I would love for us to just take a bit of message from our host today is Futuresphere, obviously. So Futuresphere will just come say what they do, and then we have Co-op. Co-op also, the representative from Co-op, who happens to be the major partner for this event. Most of this innovation talk, we've been on innovation talk since Friday, right? So we had the major talks yesterday, essentially to highlight and spotlight innovation activities across in Port Harcourt. Last year, November, we did something similar in Enugu, right? With the UNDP ACLA, the ACLA team. We hosted them in Enugu, we did the same stuff, the same talk across innovation hubs in Enugu. And then hosted NCC in Enugu as well. But that was the regional focus stuff from southeast. So we invited most of the hubs across southeast and hosted in Enugu and had had dialogue with NCC, and it's becoming a recurring stuff, especially with NCC. On a regular basis now, we hold recurring dialogue meeting with NCC. Since they started their regional stuff, so they usually ask us to help them organize and hold that dialogue as a way to contribute to their policy. So we did that last November. We did it in 2020 as well. No, 2020 was COVID. So it was 2019. We did it in 2019. We did it in 2020 as well. And in 2021 November. So yeah, that's in a nutshell is what Startupsouth does. But let's not take all of it because there are a lot of people that make this possible. All the way from River State Music Guild, Port Harcourt to the world, of course GDG Port Harcourt, South Angel Network, and then you have Forex Media. The guys taking all the pictures that you've seen online. They saw the stuff and said, we're part of the ecosystem and we love to be part of this, and so we want to provide photo coverage for the program. And so Forex Media, thank you guys. And so with that said, I'd like to invite Delight, who happens to be my wife. So Delight, please talk about Futuresphere and what you do here.
Thank you. Hi, you're doing right? Oh, yeah, okay, you're welcome. Good to have you, Anna, and everybody here. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. It's my pleasure to see you coming from very different parts of the region, to converge here and be a part of the Home Leaders Seminar. So, welcome to Startupsouth. Where you are seated right now is our training room in Futuresphere. Okay, it's Futuresphere BI Hub. Now, the BI is Business and Innovation. So, it's Futuresphere Business and Innovation Hub. It's a place where we have made up our minds to make comfortable for early stage businesses, entrepreneurs, tech enthusiasts, and people who want to collaborate, network to build something great. Okay, to be able to come in and have that space. So we have the co-working space, we have the we do incubation for early stage, okay, startups. We provide advisory, we provide you with framework, okay, to build a sustainable business. We provide you with a structure that you need, and we even link people, okay, to funding. We link people to funding opportunities, okay? If you build something that will make a difference, okay, that's what we do in Futures Fair. And that's not all. That's not all. We also provide trainings. We provide trainings. Now, these trainings are tailored trainings, digital skill trainings for people. So it's usually not a one-off program or event. We have it running. So at any point in time we receive intakes, they start the process immediately. And it's tailored to what the person needs, okay, to train on at that time. It's been an amazing journey since we started. We've hosted quite a number of organizations and individuals in this place. We've been privileged to host the DSN organization. They've run their AI innovation programs we've hosted it here for at least the past 3 years, okay, back to back. And then the African Movie Academy have also had the opportunity to come in here and hold their programs. We have made British Council happy by also providing them this place to run their CEP program and some other enterprise development programs that they have. So it's been a pleasure providing here for all the startups in Port Harcourt to have monthly hangouts, to synergize, collaborate, network, okay, to become greater in what we do. It's a way of developing the ecosystem, yeah, because we discovered that being just on our own, separated like that, we won't be able to achieve so much for the ecosystem. Now, we have to make this place a place where we can help to foster and drive the goals of Startupsouth. Startupsouth is a regional movement to ensure that the entire ecosystem of the South-South and Southeast is able to, we are changing the mindset and we are actually doing something, helping startup get funding and all of that. So we provide this place as a base for all of that to happen. So once again, everybody, welcome to Futures Fair. I will talk more about Futures Fair when we have the handout. So, and I'm giving 3 minutes. I don't think I've exhausted that, did I? Welcome. Thank you.
All right, so let's welcome Uche. That's the name again, sorry. Victory. Why did I hear Uche? Who else had Uche? I heard Uche. All right, Victory, please come and help us start on co-work. By the way, Future Fair is actually the host for the hangout later in the evening. There's usually a monthly hangout that started doing, and we coincided with this stuff, so why not everything comes together? All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. Co-work Facilities Limited, also known as Co-work Edge. We run a co-working space where we have offices for rental. We're located at Abacha GRA. And we started running about 5 years ago, and since then, it's been a wonderful ride because we get to meet different businesses, different startup businesses. We've helped different businesses start up. The ones that did not have physical offices, the ones that did not have physical addresses. We gave them spaces to start up. And today we are part of their success stories. So Power Facilities Limited, we exist majorly to help businesses grow. Whether you're a virtual business, whether you're a physical business, we exist to help you grow. We provide you with office spaces, that comes with different services. And then every month we also organize what we call community service and community events. And in that event, we gather all our clients, all the people using our hubs, and then we introduce ourselves, talk about our businesses, and then we get to also patronize each other in that training, in that meeting. So in that way also, we are also providing prospective clients, prospective customers for our clients. That's just what we do basically. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So, without further ado, I would just like to say welcome everyone to the All Leaders Seminar. They will be treating starting and running a sustainable innovation hub. At the end of this training, you should have a fair idea of what it means to say I want an innovation hub and how do you want to start, what should you do in order to start, or who should start an innovation hub, how would you go about starting an innovation hub. And I'll be doing this alongside Anna. So I'm just going to I'll start, and then I'm a forerunner actually. So my work is to do a little bit of the intros and basics. And okay, somebody walked in while we were doing the partner stuff. So can we just take those introductions so that we just know? Huh? Is that okay? Is that okay? All right. So let's do that introduction. Please, can you help us tell us your name, what you do? If you run a hub, tell us your hub and what your hub does, where it's located, and then where you're based, right? So.
Hi everyone. Good morning. Apologies for being here late. My name is Osha Kundaya, and I'm program manager for Renaissance Innovation here in Portland. But we're located at number 7 Grace Avenue off Kenta Street, NCA Road. Basically, at Renaissance, we imagine Africa and states light of technological advancement. We serve as a hub that brings great minds together, take them through certain level of trainings, and then get them to be able to build innovative solutions. We ran a fellowship program sometime last year, and then that program just ended 3 months ago. And soon enough, we're going to be opening the next cohort to a lot of great minds across software engineering, product design, electronics, robotics, and innovation. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, please just come in, and then as you just come in, I'll give you the microphone, right? So you just introduce yourself and we'll go on. Just tell us your name, what you do, and if you're already running hub, tell us about it.
My name is Abuma Kingsley, and I'm a creative writer and online publisher. Yeah.
Welcome. You're based in Port Harcourt, obviously. Abuma Kingsley, creative writer, online publisher, based in Port Harcourt. Okay, so before you start in, we are going to start the presentation. How to start and run a sustainable innovation hub. And we've done a bit of introduction, so maybe after now we can do all the networking before you leave and get ready to come back and give you for the handout proper so that we can have um, in-depth networking amongst ourselves, right? So I'll be doing this alongside Anna Keledor. I'll do the basic introduction, and Anna will take over and do the higher level stuffs. Okay. So what is a hub? Um, what is a hub? It's a hub, a physical space, a virtual space. Um, what exactly is a hub, right? And what do they, you know, what do they do, right? So, in a nutshell, hubs are basically flexible organizations or businesses that add value to their communities. And by communities, I think we define communities as well. So they add value to communities in three broad ways, right? So what, okay, human capacity development, which is digital skills, business skills. Can I add some soft skills as well? Soft skills as well. So because the hub is like, it's an institution. It's a hybrid institution straddling between the academia and real life and the corporate world. Basically, I don't want to say corporate world. Between the academia, real life, and corporate world, the hub straddles in between all of those, right? So, in some instances, some types of hubs had actually existed before, what we now have, as technological innovation hubs, right? There are things. That's why I had to add soft skills, right? Finishing schools. Finishing schools existed at some point, and to a large extent, they actually were hubs. Do you understand? So the banks at some point had finishing schools where you graduate from school, and before they can hire you, they send you there to go and train, right? Now, but there's a bit of context and differences that exist, and so we'll discuss those. So hubs support startups, and hubs build communities. We see the word communities again. And so, what is a community? What is a community? What are communities? So, I'm very sure, like Anna said earlier, this is supposed to be an interactive session. I know that there's nobody who's sitting down here that doesn't have an idea what a community is, right? So, can somebody try to define community so that we can try to put context around it? So, what do you understand as community? Who wants to try? Cyril?
Community.
Yes, what's a community? You know you're a professor.
You know a professor.
You're a professor, so
I think a community is where people live and share values.
okay.
This
All right. Cyril says a community is where people live and share values. He's not wrong, but I want additional definitions. Who wants to try again? Who wants to try again? Okay, Victory.
I think a community is where a group of people live together. They share, with particular characteristics, they share interests, they share beliefs and morals.
Awesome. You want to add something to it? Okay.
Thank you so much. I think community is like a collection of people with kind of ideas. Like they have the same kind of ideas and they kind of add value
and they are working on something, like they're always working on something, trying to share ideas, trying to develop. And
I like this class is going to be very interesting. I like this, right? So I agree with all of you. So a community is a grouping. It's a grouping of people, right? With shared interest, shared values, and to a large extent, adding what you said, not only do they share value, they add value to each other. That's very key. There's a reason why we use the word ecosystem a lot in innovation space. In biology, we understand what ecosystem is, right? Um, ecosystem simply means that you live within a group that you add value to each other, one way or the other. Somebody adds value to this person adds value to this person. So when we talk about communities in hubs, we're essentially talking about a group of people with shared interests, a group of people with similar interests that have that group together to basically add value among to themselves. So if a hub is providing, so in essence, if we follow that definition of community and we say that the hub helps to build communities, right? You know, I skipped this stuff. The innovation hubs are the fulcrum for the startup culture and defines the innovation ecosystem. So the hubs are at the core. The hubs are at the core. It's the fulcrum is it's how do we call it, the elbow or the joint around which thoughts revolve, right? So that's what innovation hubs are supposed to do. So you have innovation hubs that are supposed to be in in a creative community. You should be able to have a hub upon which the creative activities, be it music, be it writing, right? You know, be it publishing. So you should be able to provide that ecosystem within which the creative activities can go on. That within which people, members of that community, can add value to themselves, right? And by adding value, I hope you understand that they should be able to make money, right? So, yes, so they add money is part of it. So let's not talk about it like so add value to themselves. So we should be able to gather, the hub should be able to gather people together and provide an enabling environment for people to express themselves and achieve their goals. Okay? That's what a hub is, right? And that's what a hub. So there are different. So no, let's go back to that as I think it's important. Go back to the last slide. So you see, one of the ways that the hub helps is research, right? Research. You help, the hub helps to provide the resources that make research possible because they are the fulcrum on which the community revolves. Then it means that the hub is able to collect data for research. And what do you do with research? To discover patterns, right? To discover trends and patterns. And in discovering trends and patterns, you become better, you build better. True? So hubs make that possible. If so that's one of the as a hub owner, as a hub manager, that is one of the things you should be focusing on. How do I run my operations in a way that makes it possible for me to collect data and possibly warehouse those data in such a way that members of my community can use those data to better themselves. Okay? Now, policy advocacy is something that the hub should also be able to do. Now, what is policy advocacy? Essentially, the policy advocacy is, why am I saying that when we're supposed to be interacting? So, what is policy advocacy? Who wants to try? Philip, you want to try? It's okay to say no, I just pass. So, you want me to pass? Okay. Okay, I should give you after Philip. No, after Philip. Philip, what happened?
So, from my understanding, policy advocacy, I would practicalize it. So, for example, if you're developing a particular work, a particular tech solution, and it's geared towards improving a particular system, I will use the government for example. So you want to improve government work in a certain way, and you know that the only way that will be made possible is that they will need to formulate policies that will improve the work in that particular sector. So when you build those tech solutions, you would have an engagement with your focus group, for example, the government. Whatever you have will be presented to them so that it would enable them to formulate policies that would improve that work.
Ivy, let me help. Thank you. So Ivy knows what she's saying. She's actually helping us describe the process of creating policies, right? But what I wanted to get is just like a brief definition of what policy advocacy is, right? So here's how I would do this. Every human lives in a society. We're here today, we live in a society. Society will be very chaotic, if we do not have some sort of governance. True? True? Now, how are governments able to manage societies, control societies? How? They make policies that guide how we behave. True? They make policies that guide how we behave. That's how they control and manage the society. In order for our lives to be easier. Otherwise, somebody will be naked and walking on that street. Today, if you see somebody walking naked on the street, you feel that the person is mad, right? Apparently, the person is actually mad, okay? Now, otherwise, the person will be arrested. Bad? Good. And that's an extreme case. I mean, I don't even know why my mind talk about that one first. Okay. Now, like we're sitting here now, somebody would have come here and told all of us to give him or her our phones. Right? But there's a reason why anybody can't do that, right? Right? Now, those are extreme cases. We're just going to extreme cases today. But let's look at it again. When, as a business, you do business, you are required to pay tax to the government. True? The tax is supposed to, I say supposed to because we're in Nigeria. Don't quote me. Supposed to be used to create
Life.
Well, I didn't call anybody's name. The taxes that we pay are supposed to be used to provide infrastructure for us, like good roads, potable water. Is that not social studies 101? Isn't that? That's social studies. So provide potable water, provide good roads, provide hospitals. I used to remember those days now. That's what they used to say, right? But yeah, so taxes are forms of policies. Government make tax policies, right? Now, policy advocacy. Oh dear. Okay, before I say that, there is a way policies evolve. Policies don't just happen. They don't just wake up and make policies. even when you think, oh, this government just wake up and do this, the honest truth is that certain people engineered the enactment of certain policies. Okay? And most times they do it for the advantage. Do you understand?
Yeah.
In the US, you have lobby groups that will lobby for certain type of policies to the advantage of their sponsors. It is legal to sponsor people to lobby. It's also happening in Nigeria. It's just that a lot of us don't know. Go to National Assembly and say you want to write a bill before you go pass them. Okay. So they are they are lobby groups essentially. So hubs can actually be lobby hubs can be a lobby group in the communities they exist for the benefit of their community members. Do you understand that? Startupsouth, for instance, one of the things we do is policy advocacy for the startup communities in the region that we care about. We want certain things to be in place to make it possible for our startups to grow. So to do that, we have to find the government people that are responsible for those things and find a way to make them see reasons why they should do it, and then get to the point of them creating the policy that is favorable to us. So that's part of what the hub do. So consultancy, provide infrastructure, consultancy simply means that we provide expert level guide or knowledge that helps people do things better. Now, provide infrastructure helps provide offices like co-op told you. They provide offices like FutureSphere as well. Provide offices for people who ordinarily would not have like 1.5 million to go and rent a space. I mean, pay 1.5 million first, you've not furnished the office yet, right? You've not furnished it, you've not painted, you've not put AC, you've not put, that's just to pay rent first, okay? Now, some people don't have that kind of money to start, but hubs provide you the space that is already furnished with the AC that you need. So at a fraction of the cost it would have cost you to start. So with that, you can easily start, you can quickly start. That's one of the ways hub make money too. I mean, it's just one of the ways. Okay? So the hubs provide funding as well. So that at some point we will understand the different types of hubs that can exist. I mean, different type models. Are those models now or categories? So we have the incubation, the accelerators, venture builder, So those are, at that point, you're discussing people who will provide some type of funding. Do you understand? They provide some type of funding for the startups that they work with or the community members in quotes. Okay? So talent. So hubs makes it possible for talent development, and this talent also become part of the startups that or part of the community, and then it becomes easy for the startups and the businesses growing from within the hub to find talent. Okay, now this is basically what you have as a hub. That I'm sure that after now you can discuss hubs, right? Right? You can discuss what a hub is properly, right? Okay. Now that's the goal. So you can discuss the hub properly. So what is the innovation hub life cycle? So hubs operate within the ecosystem defined by 7 pillars. Number 1 is funding. I talked about this in the previous slide, but I'll just join a bit about it. So the 7 pillars, okay, funding, human capital, infrastructure, support systems, culture, policy, regulatory frameworks. Now, so I won't dwell too much on this, but let me just talk about a bit of them. Now, in the funding part, right, I said that there are hubs whose goal is actually to find startups and fund them, either by incubating them, and typically when they incubate them, they provide them resources, right? Provide them resources to help them grow from zero stage to where they can have one, zero to one. Okay? So that I am going through the incubation process. And also make it possible for you to have network of people who can fund startups. So angel investors, venture capital firms connect to hubs. If you can share the slide, I'll find out. I think we can. I'll find out. Now, venture capital firms, angel investors, they all connect to the hub to help to invest in the startups that the hubs build. So it is the responsibility of the hub to identify this type of stakeholders that I've mentioned and make them a core part of their communities. So as a hub owner, as a hub manager, part of your role is to find out who are the active angel investors in my community or even beyond my community. Because if you're going to build startups, you have to be able to, you offer as a value access to funding. Do you understand? You should offer as a value access to funding. So it is your responsibility to build relationship with angel investors, venture capital firms, and even corporate organizations. So aside from I'll talk about the support system. Let me skip to support system straight, right? Now, in addition to the funding, providing, building relationship with funders, as a hub manager, your responsibility also is to establish relationships with corporate organizations, okay, and mentors. You should be able to build a network of mentors that would support a network of mentors that can support the founders so a network of mentors that can support the community basically, right? So hubs typically are places where people come to make their dream work, right? And for that to happen, they need a lot of support from different people that are experienced. Okay, so you have mentors, you have coaches, so as a hub, your responsibility is to build that network of support system for the community. Okay, now infrastructure. I talked about that already. Make sure we provide infrastructure. The hub provide infrastructure by way of co-working spaces. And, then human capital. We talked about talent development. Okay, so you will soon find out every hub does not need to. You can't do everything as a hub. So it's important that you're able to find out where is your strength. But as much as possible, when you find out what your strength is, focus on your strength, but also find out from the extended community other hubs that have strength in the places where you lack strength and connect with them. So you may not be a technology you may not be a developer-focused hub, so you can't even train developers even if you wanted to, right? But there are people who have hubs and their core strength is development, programming, technology. You can synergize with them, right? You are technology strong, but business weak. There are people who run hubs and they have business strategy, business development as their core strength. Synergize, right? You are not a creator or creative person in the sense that you are not in the creative space now. You're not a writer. You're not a writer. You're not an actor, and you run a hub for creatives where you have writers, actors, musicians, and everybody in the same space, right? But you don't have business development strength. You don't have technology development or technology strength. So synergize. Okay? So you can't do everything as a hub. So regulatory framework policies, we've talked about these things already, so I'll just talk about culture. So because the hub is a community, every community will always have a culture. And what is culture? The way of life, the way of doing things of a people. Is that correct? Yeah. That's what we define as culture, right? The way of life, way of doing things of the people. So every community, so the hub should be able to be in a position to define what the culture is. For those of you in the technology ecosystem, I'm sure you will have heard some of the conversations going on around, some of the conversations that are going on lately around the toxic workplace, right? How many of you are online and you've seen that kind of conversation? Now, those are like kind of things that the hub should be able to inculcate in their training. I mean, if certain startups pass through hubs, for instance, a hub that has that type of training inculcated, those type of knowledge inculcated in their training, a lot of those things will not exist. Do you understand? So, let's go to the next slide. So starting an innovation hub, who can start an innovation hub? Who can start an innovation hub? Let me start from there first. Before we start talking about whether there is market or not, we should be able to define who can start an innovation hub. Why do people start hubs? Who can be a hub manager? Why do you even want to be a hub manager? So there are different characteristics that hub owners, hub managers would need to have. One of it is knowledge in the subject matter area. That's one of it. Now, because I advise startups, this is what I usually, it's one of the core things I tell startups. You can't build a startup in an area you know nothing about. Right? I see a lot of founders come and say, I'm a lawyer, but you know what, I'm building a health tech startup. Now, it's not a problem. See, the problem is not that you want to build it, because there are ways to balance out these things, right? The problem is when you refuse to look at those ways to balance out those things. That's where the problem is, right? So it's important to have some level of knowledge in the area you're trying to focus on. I'm sure Anna will discuss some of these things later on, right? Now, it's important to have some knowledge, even if you don't have all the knowledge, some knowledge in that area, because it will come in handy, especially if you're going to run the hub, like owner manager type of thing, right? it's going to come in handy. So imagine somebody who says, I want to set up a hub and our hub is technology development. But why am I attacking? Am I attacking lawyers? Is there any lawyer in the house? I wanted to say I'm a lawyer, but let me just be sure. Is there any lawyer in the house?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So don't worry, I won't say I'm a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I am something else, and I want to set up a technology hub, right? Where our core is technology, talent, development. Hmm? But I don't know Jack. I don't even know the simplest. I don't know what a tag is. HTML, you know HTML tags. I don't know what it is, right? To start with, bro, you will struggle. You will soon realize that it's not easy to find people who understand what you're talking about. Because it has to start from somewhere. There are materials, no doubt, but without knowledge, those materials are useless to you. That's the simple truth. We can find curriculum, we can find materials online, but without knowledge, without the knowledge, basic knowledge of those things, it will be useless. So I think it's important to first immerse yourself into that space. First get into the space for understanding. So the other part of it will be about passion, right? The honest truth is um, running a hub, just like running anything, not just in Nigeria, anywhere, is tough. Let's not kill ourselves. Running a hub is hard work. It's hard work. And if you think it's you're getting into it for money making venture, right? You'll soon realize that that idea is dead on arrival. So don't get me wrong. Hubs make money. Do you understand? You can run a hub and you can make money. But the way it is done in itself is such that there are other things you need to place in front before the money. That's the idea. So it's possible to run a hub and for the next 2 years, you're still putting money. You're not seeing income. For instance, it costs money to organize a program. It costs money to organize a program, right? And you're going to organize programs. True? If you don't have partners or sponsors, you still organize programs because it's one of the ways to grow your community, right? And you're going to spend money to do that. I'm not even talking about the rent that you're going to pay. I'm not talking about internet that you're going to pay for. You're going to do all of this, and yet you're not going to spend all of that. Yet. So, which is why the business plan, understanding all of this and factoring them in is very, very important. And Anna will develop those later on. I think I need to rush right now. Let me see what I speak to. Let me see what I speak to. Okay, no, so who can start a hub? You need to have knowledge, you need to be passionate about it, and you need to be passionate about what you're doing, and of course you need to discover what you want to do. Discover what you want to do. What do you want to do, and why do you want to do it? Simon Sinek, right? Many of you have watched have listened to that. Many of you have listened to that his talk, Sinek. The why. What do you call it again? Something about the why. Can't remember the title. You have to answer that question. Why am I doing this? What is this? What is it I'm trying to do? And why am I doing it? Why should I do it? Okay. Of course, you need to do feasibility. You need to be able to understand if there's a market for what you're doing, and that's feasibility study. How will I make money? Who will buy from me? Who is the customer? Who is going to buy from me? Right? How will I make money? How much should I sell for? Right? You have to answer all of those questions. Okay? Then find out what is the demand like currently. What is the demand like? If you don't answer these questions, you don't set up the work. I already said that in the stuff, and it can take you about more than 2 years to make it. You may not even need 2 years in the first instance. Or it can take you much more than 2 years. Do you understand? So it's very important that you understand. So market research will help you, will help. Okay, market research helps you to evaluate the feasibility of a product. It helps you to gain insight into why customers will buy from you. The way we say in startup, what is the solution? What is the problem you're solving? Hubs don't just exist, they exist to solve problems. Startupsouth is existing because of the problem. And what's that problem? There is a need to galvanize collaboration, right? There's a need to create high-skill ventures. High-skill ventures across the southeast, okay? To provide, to create wealth, provide opportunities, and foster development in the regions, right? Now, through the instrumentality of the startup culture, the startup mindset, okay? Now, there's a need to make sure that young people are building stuff at scale across the regions. And so, startups are set up to achieve that goal, okay? What is Futures Firm? There's a need to have, provide a place where people can come learn about innovation, how to build startups in Port Harcourt, for instance, right? That's a need, okay? Renaissance, there's a need for people to learn how to tinker or to build, either build software or to build electronics, right? To build gadgets. There's a need for people to learn that. And so you will soon discover that this problem you are solving and the way you're solving that problem is going to determine a lot of the decisions you will make in setting up your hub. So for instance, the location of your hub will be determined by you understanding who will use the hub in the first instance. If I'm setting up a hub for students and I take it and go and put it inside one remote area, right? I put it in one remote area where that is not close to the school at all. Okay? Will the student be able to pay transport to come to the hub? Will they be able to? Exactly. So you will then see that some of these things we're discussing now will actually help in a lot of the decisions you will make in starting your hub. So understand customer pain points. Market research will help you understand what exactly, okay, we say pain points, we say jobs. What are exactly do the customers want to do? What are they trying to achieve? Somebody is looking for a space to work from, right? What job is he trying to accomplish in doing that? What is the friction? What is stopping him from? What is stopping him from doing that? Is the pain point. Do you understand? So that's the pain point you're looking for. Anna, you want to take over from the next slide so that I can talk about the accelerators and okay. Let's do a hands together for Anna.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Uche. Because, okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So, Uche has already done a fantastic job in basically explaining some of the things you need to consider within the context of the broader ecosystem. He's explained the 7 pillars in each ecosystem and which hubs operate and in their role in the ecosystem. So, just taking continuing from where we stopped in terms of what you need to consider as a hub manager, looking at your expertise, looking at your passion. These all lead to determining what type of hub you run, right? So as you carry out your market research and you carry out your feasibility study, one of the things to keep in mind is that you can't do everything at once, right? And the fact is that a lot of hubs have gotten into trouble just by trying to do everything. Now, this happens for various reasons. One, yes, you're passionate about solving all the problems in the community because, yes, there are a lot of problems we need to solve, right? Another could be even funders because you find situations whereby because you're the only hub in that community, funding comes for this sort of activity you carry it out. Another form of funding comes for a total type of activity, and then because you need a fund, you carry out that activity as well. But the disadvantage of doing this is that at the end of the day, you're not building expertise and sharpening your value proposition for any 1 or 2 or 3 target groups, right? So it's important to identify your niche. Now, what is a niche, right? What's your niche market? This is basically a focused, targetable portion of a broader market in which specialized products or services or solutions can be sold or can be offered to, right? And there's an advantage of basically, identifying your niche as opposed to trying to do everything at once. Now, in identifying your niche and focusing on it, you're focusing your business efforts, right? Which means you as a hub manager, the staff you hire, the sort of partners you go after, the sort of business strategies, and later I'll talk about developing a business plan, will be focused around a specific niche, which could be, more than one. So the fact that I say niche doesn't have to be, just one niche. It could be 1, 2, 3. But just make sure that each niche is refined enough for you to have a focused business strategy. Providing expertise, right? When people hear your name, what do they think of? Right? How do you stand out? What comes to mind? Right? That's very important. Now, at Afrilabs, for example, we're a community of innovation hubs across 52 African countries. We always try to project that Pan-African focus, right? Pan-African community, Pan-African collaboration, and Pan-African coordination of activities within the innovation ecosystem. So when certain partners come to talk to us, we're saying that, look, what you get from us in terms of the value is that we're helping you connect to all these hubs across the continent, and we're helping you deploy your value or whatever it is you're looking to execute on the continent across the continent, right? Establishing brand loyalties, of course, because once you deliver, right, you have a niche, you have the expertise. Once you deliver, people come to you more, right? So, for example, we have hubs who are specifically focused on providing talent to tech companies in US, for example, right? Whether in Nigeria or US. And because they develop expertise of training talent, right? Technical skills, develop software developers and the likes, and they produce quality talent, deploy to the companies, and also give post-deployment support to these companies. And they refine that model over time. The next time a company who has used them wants to use them again, what's going to happen? They're going to go back to them, right? We have hubs that are focused on accessing funding for innovation, for startups, right? To take it as an example a lot. So basically what they do is that they have a community of angel investors or venture capitalists, both locally and international, that invest in startups. Now, why do these VCs come to them? Because they know that they have quality startups that they source to provide as a pipeline for startups to invest in. Or they know that they run a quality accelerator program whereby they produce investable quality startups. Now, the next time a VC wants to invest in a startup, an angel investor, who are they going to go to? The hub who has, he's focused on just developing talent, or the hub that is looking that builds startups. The hub that builds startups, right? So that's building brand loyalty. Yes. Then there's catering to specific customer and stakeholder needs, which is you're more focused as well. And this goes now. This goes again across board, right? So example of certain niche areas for hubs, we have digital skills training. We have enterprise support. So in this case, you're helping to build successful startups, whether it's early stage startups or later stage startups. Now, on this enterprise support, I would give different examples of different models further broken down. So we have hubs that run as incubators, right? Now, these incubators work with entrepreneurs that have ideas or at the early stage. So they've started, but they've not really defined their model, they've not really built a successful product yet, and they need that support to build their product or to build a business model around their idea, or even test. There's the idea validation process. These are incubators, so that's it's still a subsection of enterprise support. We have accelerators as well. Accelerators work with more mature businesses or businesses, startups that have products that are having deployed and have gained some traction, and they're looking to scale really fast, right? We have venture builders as well. So venture builders are unique models. Sometimes they call them startup studios. And basically what they do is that within the hub, right? And this is an interesting model, especially if you're a hub founder that has some really exciting ideas, and you see that over time, your ideas are actually marketable after they're built out and the likes. So basically what venture builders do is that they identify the ideas first, they carry out all the market research and all of that on the viability of these ideas, right? I know you also run, Renaissance also run a venture model with the, I noticed with the hardware that you build and all of that. And then they identify founders, right, who would have the expertise, or they train them in the expertise or have the passion to actually build out these solutions, whether they're products or services for the market. So these are venture builders. And then of course we have enterprise support organizations that are hybrid, so they, have a mix of the different models. Then other niche areas for hubs, ecosystem support activities. So all the other areas like policy advocacy, providing support to corporate organizations, development organizations that want to operate in the innovation space, consultancy as well. If you have this expertise in a particular area, whether it's on green energy, for example, or health tech or health innovation, whatever it is, you can provide consultancy to other stakeholders. For example, now we have a lot of banks that are really looking at seeing technology, financial technology as the way forward. And as a result of that, there are certain hubs who have developed an expertise in running fintech accelerators, right? In building out fintech solutions, and they consult these banks who want to also do the same internally. So that understanding your expertise from the start, which you mentioned, is very important in identifying your niche. Then, of course, knowledge management, looking at research, market data, and the likes. Real estate management, co-working space, like our partner here explained today.
that could be a niche as well. Now, once you identify your niche, or intelligent anyway, it goes hand in hand. It's important to segment your market to primary and secondary groups. So, who are your primary markets and who are your secondary market? In most cases, the youth and entrepreneurs, for hubs, most of the hubs on the African continent, youth and entrepreneurs are your primary markets. So everything you do, right, revolves around youth and the startups within your community. You do for them, you're developing solutions and all of that. Now, even though they are your primary markets, you're still operating within a broader ecosystem. And you still have to engage with different stakeholders for different reasons. Is it that you need the stakeholders like the government to build your affordable internet? Otherwise, you keep on running your hub at an expensive cost, or provide the right regulatory or policy environment for the startups to be able to run their businesses sustainably, ease of doing business, or their development partners. So in a lot of cases, and I'm sure a number of you that probably run hubs already can can testify to the fact that it's not all the time. In fact, a lot of times the youth in your community cannot afford the services you offer as a hub. So who's going to fund these services, right? We had that conversation yesterday. So by identifying development agencies or partners as your secondary group, you create a special strategy for engaging them, right? Academia as well. Very important to work with academia for different reasons. For research, we talk about expertise in your field. If you're running a fintech accelerator, for example, or health tech, what's the health data out there? You know, if you want to patent the technology that is being built within your hub or by your startup, how can you collaborate with universities to do that? If you're running a hub that is focused on digital skills training or supplying skills, talent to other organizations, where are you sourcing the talent from in the first place for people to train? Can you partner with universities or even secondary schools in your community to get these young people to train? Then we have corporate bodies as well. I gave the example of banks. Banks, other than the fact that they also want to learn more from the innovation space and set up their own technology initiatives, they also fund. So we have corporate organizations, whether it's the oil and gas companies or the banks or the FMCGs, whatever they are, that also fund activities through CSR, CSR budget, right? So very important that you identify your primary market and your secondary market. You. Another advantage of segmentation is so that you don't get carried away, right? So that whatever you're doing, you have your primary target in mind. You're not working for the secondary group. You're partnering with them, you're convincing them to fund, you're also meeting their needs, but the end goal is ensuring that you satisfy the needs of your primary target market. Now, after we've done all this, right, you've carried out your research, you've identified the sort of hub manager you will be, determine your niche and all that. It's very important to treat your hub like a business. Yes, we are passionate, yes, we're helping the community, but even if it's a non-profit organization or an NGO, go into it with a business mindset, right? And to do that, you start to develop a business plan, right? This is basically an actionable document that shows your hub's strategic objective. What are you really looking to achieve, right, in your community? The requirements for establishing a hub, what do you need, right? Even if your hub is self-funded and you're not going to meet an investor, still develop a plan, right? What do you need? Who are the initial staff that you need? What capital requirements do you need? Are you going to operate from an existing hub if you want to go new, because some hubs start out that way, or do you need to rent a space, right? And then set up your internet and put desks, co-working desks and all that. You need to have all of these written down, right? The strategy and execution timeline. How long are you going to take? I need to be quite realistic about this based on the resources you have. as well as the expected outcomes within a specified period of time. So if you say you want to run an accelerator program, for example, for startups, what's your target? Are you saying you would run a cohort? A cohort is basically hub programming languages. In languages, it's saying a particular group of a group of startups or people that you train within the time. So you could say you have a cohort of 10 startups to train every 12 weeks, for example, or for a period of 12 weeks, that's 3 months, and you run 2 cohorts a year, which means at the end of each year, you have trained at least 20 startups, right, for a period of 3 months each. If that's your expected outcome, then all the other bits, your financial plan, your strategy, execution timeline have to align with this. Right? Now, one thing to note, this is on. Okay. Now, one thing to note, and before I go to this, I will, at the end of this session, talk about what Afrilabs is about to launch, which will actually give you access to lessons online and resources and templates for everything that I'm talking about today. Because of time, of course, we can't go into the details. Now, one thing to note in developing a business plan is that, or just generally a plan for your hub, is that you may not be profitable within the first 2 years of operating, for example, right? But it's important that your plan shows a path to sustainability, right? Even if you're not a non-profit. So yes, you're probably not working for profit, or you could be running as a business, but there has to be a path to sustainability, which is basically how you're going to keep on running the hub, covering your basic operating fees, right? Now, this is not only useful for investors, but also guides you in building a path to sustainability. So, if you say, hey, in the next 1 year or 2 years, you're going to be able to generate enough revenue, whether it's from grants or from services you offer as a fee, or from placements of talent, or people directly renting your co-working space. If you have your financials in place, which you plan at the beginning of the year, and after 6 months or 1 year, you see that you're not even on track, it guides you to reevaluate and say, okay, maybe the assumptions I made at the beginning, thinking that people in my area are coming to rent my entire space to be filled after 3 months at a rate of 100,000 naira per month for a hot desk. If that's not happening, then you have to go back to the market and say, why is it not happening? Is it too expensive? Are there cheaper alternatives? Do I need to even change my client base? And instead of going for smaller businesses, and go for international companies that are willing to pay expensive rent. What do I need to put in my space that will attract those people? If you say that with the talent you're supplying, for example, people are not hiring, people are not willing to pay the agency fee or the fee for managing the talent. Are your fees too high? Are you not even marketing yourself properly? What's the value proposition? So a business plan really helps you to keep on track. Just to say that whatever type of hub you're managing, sustainability is very important for growth. And as I said, the execution of the plan, pivot if necessary, which means it's okay to actually change your plan if you see that you're not on track, right? Now, so that's basically in setting up a hub. As I said, because of time, these are just the foundations, and I'll tell you where to get more resources later, right? Now, after you set up your hub, right, you evaluated, you decided you're going to do this location, you're going to focus on this is how you're going to market, this is how you're going to fund it, whether it's a personal fund, you're going to fund for investors, whatever it is. You now have to have the right management principles in place, right? You can set up your hub. You can have $1 million today to set up a hub. And because you don't have the right management principles in place, you're in trouble, 3-4 years down the line. On the other hand, you could start starting with $10,000 and grow over time. Management is key. Now, some of the best management practices, right, is in terms of internal management, is having a lean organization, lean practices. The fact that you even have a lot of money, in the event that you actually have a lot of investment, doesn't mean that you have to go hire as many people as possible, get the most expensive space and the likes. Sometimes you can start with your core team of smart, competent people and then grow, right? And the advantage of this is that you would learn lessons along the way, right? You would have to retrain your model sometimes, you would fail, you would rise up, but this gives you room to be flexible, right? Without having to come back too much if you need to pivot your strategy. So having a lean organization, hire smart, get the best out of the team that can deliver. Um, Managing lean doesn't necessarily mean overworking your team. That's very important. Um, Develop good feedback and internal controls. So basically create a culture where everyone can speak about situations freely and understand what's going on in your organization. Now, I'll tell you personally, as a leader that has run an organization and been running Afrilabs for the past 6 years, 6.5 years. When I started, when we set up, Afrilabs was founded 10, just to give you a brief history. Afrilabs started 10 years ago, right? Well, 10.5 years ago now, 2011. And it started as a virtual community, right? So there was no operating office per se, and it wasn't run as an institution per se, but a very strong community that was developed to build a community around hubs who would share knowledge, share resources, and collaborate with each other over the continent. And then when I came on board, the board at that time decided it was time to establish properly on the continent. So I led the process of registering the organization, which I was registered in Nigeria, and building out the team. And when I started, it was just me and an intern. So when we talk about starting lean, I knew the definition of lean, Started with an intern, and now we've grown to over 30 staff across Nigeria, Kenya, Cameroon, and Ghana, right? While the headquarters is still here in Nigeria. And one of the things I've learned, especially as a leader, working with a young team, right, in Africa, right, is that because we have a culture of we don't talk back to authority, right? We learn it from school, we learn it from our culture. Sometimes that feedback loop is disconnected. I don't know if there's anyone that can relate to me here. So it's important that when you're building out your team, be open. During meetings, make them speak up, make them push back. Because the fact that you're a leader, you have all the experience, you may even have all the experience. In this innovation space, I don't think there's anyone that has all the experience. We're all learning, right? Doesn't mean that they will not be open to speaking. And I say this because there are also systems. I've seen organizations whereby the leader is up here and the organization is basically going and crashing and things are happening. And nobody's telling the leader anything. Why? Because we don't have a feedback mechanism. Now, another thing is that as your organization grows and as your organogram becomes more complicated, right? There's also a chance whereby there are things that happen at the least level, right? Maybe interns working with their managers or associates or associate managers you may not know about, right? But it's important to create internal systems, through your HR. You can also work with consultants who can work with you as you expand that will create a system for giving feedback in a healthy way. It could be doing the 360 degrees HR, staff evaluation, and the likes, right? So these are just something to keep in mind. Always have an open culture. Then a culture of belongingness, of course. Now this is very important, especially as a hub, right? Your community has to feel welcome for every kind of staff and diverse right? So no discrimination against anyone. And then even for people coming to work from your space, whether you're working from your space or going through one of the programs or training or support, it just has to be a culture, a people first organization, right? Yeah, next slide. Now, the concept of a lean organization is about having a system that minimizes operational costs and then running overhead costs to another overhead costs to the business. Um, now, it might mean that you're cutting costs, but you're also running in an effective and efficient way to get the right strategies. Right? Next, please. Yeah, so in adopting the new concept, we mean that innovation hub must constantly deliver value from a user perspective, which means that you're cutting out all the other extras that are not needed, right? And it is tempting to go to all the other extras because when you visit this hub, oh, they're doing all these fancy events and activities and all of that. If it's not your core, you do not need to do that. You don't need to make it your core, right? You don't need to run an event every weekend because another hub is doing one fine night every weekend, which you don't do one fine night every weekend. On the other hand, this is where collaboration also comes in, right? So you can collaborate with other hubs to also offer those advantages to your community and all those other exciting add-ons without having to take them on at a cost, right? So it's also about being smart about how you leverage on partnerships to deliver value that's added value to your users or your community without having to take on the burden of those costs or minimize the burden. So that the core of the operating cost and the core of your efforts, of your staff, your time, your resources is still focused on what your niche. Remember the niche that we identified earlier on. It helps you eliminate wastage, right? This is for programs, this is for running the hub as well, and it helps you consistently seek incremental improvement as opposed to the pressure of having to, just blow up overnight. And then of course, better usage of resources or optimization, right? So there are tools out there that in fact, I would say that one of the things that running a lean organization does is that you're constantly also looking for partnerships that can give you tools that you can use within the hub, right? Without having to pay for it, right? So if you have a partnership with Microsoft, for example, they can give you Microsoft credits, right? Or licenses to run your hub. Or AWS. AWS does that a lot actually. Amazon Web Services. They have this package for innovation hubs whereby your startups can get the AWS package to build their tech platforms, the tech businesses on, the tech products on. And they give the startups credit. So that lowers the cost of the startup and also lowers the cost as well if you're going to cover it. So it just helps you develop strategies on how to manage your costs. Others run virtual hubs, but leveraging on other innovation hubs in the community for shared space. So they run their incubation accelerator programs in the space until they can generate enough revenue to rent out their own space. So it just helps you to think of better strategies to manage your resources while again delivering your core to your users, very important. Now, other than being and running a people-centered organization and managing your hub sustainability and thinking of all these other strategies, it's important to remember that yes, you're operating in an ecosystem and you always have to stay relevant. The fact that you're relevant today doesn't mean you're going to be relevant tomorrow. The world doesn't work that way. Right? The nature of the world is that it's ever evolving. And particularly our tech ecosystem, because things are moving so fast. Right now we're talking about advanced technologies, 5G technologies and all of that. Things are moving, right? So we have to always stay relevant. And how do you do that? One, foster collaboration. I can't emphasize this enough. Working in silos is not effective, right? So the advantage of collaborations is that it helps you not only do more, right? But it also helps you keep up to date with what's happening because you learn from each other. You're bringing your expertise, and the other partner is also bringing their expertise to the table, right? Catalyze innovation. So, of course, we're all here. Innovation first, right? So, you're constantly thinking of ways to do things in a better way. You're challenging your startup. So the startup says, look, they come to you and say they're running, they want to build a fintech solution, for example. What are the latest technologies in the fintech space, right? Are they going to build on using blockchain technology, or by the time you do market research or market analysis, are you going to walk them through the process of thinking of an innovative way to reach out to all banks, right? For example, in a way that they haven't, that is different from what's out there already, right? So you always have to think in a future forward, innovation driven way to remain relevant. Otherwise, you'll be helping people build outdated products or leveraging on outdated technologies or platforms. They create and serve as a link for meaningful interaction. So one of the ways to stay relevant is you're an intermediary at the end of the day, right? You're an intermediary between a startup and the market, talent and the market, academia and data, development organizations and innovation within the ecosystem. Whatever it is, I mean, Kuchi said this earlier, you're that fulcrum, right? But being the fulcrum, being at the center, without being deliberate about connecting entrepreneurs or developing value for them really doesn't serve any purpose, right? So you always have to remember to serve as a meaningful being that you're creating value or you're connecting different groups that have value to each other, right? Events like this actually help, in doing so. Then, just generally, in terms of staying relevant, innovation hub must also build a culture of startup creation, right? Or create a strategy for turning relevant skill sets. Relevant, again, being you always have to be on the forefront on what's of value. Have a network community of like minds. So when a community member walks into a space, who are the other people they're connecting with? Right? You need to be aware of who you're attracting to your hub. Right? That in itself is value. There are certain communities you walk into and you're like, I came out, I connected with this person, I learned this. Just share the ideas. You don't even have to facilitate the ideas. One of the things we do, for example, as Afrilabs, is that we have an annual event. I invite everyone here to. We have an annual event we run every year, right? Called the Afrikaans Annual Gathering. And we run it in a different African location every year. We've had it previously in Ghana, Egypt, Tanzania, Ethiopia. With Ethiopia, we did with the African Union. We did Nigeria last year, and then this year we'll be in Zambia. Now, we see the Afrilabs Gathering as a platform for our member hubs across the continent, as well as other partners, development organizations, corporates, other stakeholders that are also passionate about building the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem to come together, interact, and share ideas. Now, these are all like-minded individuals, hubs, and entities. Why? Because they're all passionate about innovation, entrepreneurship ecosystem, and the likes. Now, what we've seen over the years is that through our gatherings, we don't even need to directly be at the center of every conversation. Just by bringing all these people in the room, they're constantly networking and just discussing and sharing ideas, and that in itself is value. So having a network community of like minds, whether it's a community within a city, a country, a region like the South, Southeast, like Startupsouth, or across the continent, it's very important to manage your community well so that when people interact, they see that interaction as value and see your organization or your hub as valuable. Then, of course, execute with excellence. This is, and I know I can say everything is important because everything is important, but this is extra important if you're going to keep your primary and your secondary target group close, right? So in whatever you do, whether you're running an incubation program, experiential program, or a boot camp, even just a solo boot camp, or you're executing for a partner, execute with excellence, right? It's not enough to develop a program and run it and then check out the boxes. Because that happens, I ran the training, 100 people were in the training, and we like, the media are our friends, they're here. But we like reporting the numbers and all of that. But the quality of your program is very important. When we started out at Afrilabs as well, we made a few mistakes, in terms of execution and the likes. But as we refine our model, we take every implementation of every activity very seriously. And what we've seen is that our primary target, which is our hubs, keep showing up for activities, right, that we run because they see it as valuable. But also other partners, our development partners who fund our projects, right? They keep coming back. So over the years, we built partnerships with development organizations like the African Union, the UN, the French Development Agency, Afrikaans Bank. These organizations we worked with time and time over the years, and in some cases multiple years. And of course, we've grown our community. Afrilabs had a network, when it was founded in 2011, it was a network of 5 members across 4 African countries. Now we're over 300 members, right, across 52 African countries. Our goal is to cover all 54 African countries. Now why? Because the word has spread that we execute with excellence. Same with partners. Then we used to chase lots of partners. We still do it, to be fair, because we're always looking to expand. But then we also get a lot of referrals. And that's the advantage of executing with excellence. When you execute, your primary targets would suggest, hey, join the network, Afrilabs, you get value from them. The partners talk to each other, right? They say, someone from UN says, they're talking to someone at the UN and says, hey, we want to execute an innovation program in Africa, who can we speak to? They're like, oh, speak to Afrilabs, we don't work with them, fantastic. That's how it works, right? So you get referrals. Well, in a nutshell, I think I've already spoken about this, is staying relevant, focus on people, both your immediate team and external, understand the value offering you give, and make data-driven decisions. Now, this is something that we take for granted sometimes. I'm sure the data guy, I didn't do data guys, data scientists, people that work in data, okay, yes. But these are some of the things that we take for granted. It's very important to work with your data, right? Data doesn't have to be, when we hear about big data and all of that. It could just be collecting feedback from people. When you run a workshop, immediately collect feedback. How was the workshop? Well, the facilitator was too fast, the content was fantastic, whatever it is, right? When you run an event, just always collect data, right? Even the nature of your community, when they sign up, when they come to your event, eventually you see a trend. You say, okay, we have the sort of people that have applied for this program year on year, even though we're expecting it to be young people between the ages of 18 and 21, for example. We've seen that we have more 25-year-olds to 40-year-olds who are more interested in this, which means that data will help you probably redefine your model, right? So instead of working on a program that is focusing on teenagers because you thought that's what you attract, but you're seeing another target group basically come to you each time, what would you do? You shift your strategy. right? So always work with the data about your community, from their demographic and all of that, to data you've collected about feedback about your activities, then data from the market. If you say you're building talent to supply to companies in your city, what sort of talent are they even looking for? Are they looking for full stack developer, front end, back end? Are they looking for digital marketers, for example? What do they need, right? Because there's no point training people and then after that you have a problem placing them because the skills you're training is really not training for is really not a problem, right? But if you want to supply to companies in Silicon Valley, for example, what sort of skills are they really looking for there? What's the gap in the market, right? So let data drive you. So in summary of all of this, create a sustainable model, right? Again, this will come from all your research and data, developing your business plan, and then reiterating over time, right? Startups within your network must have a community. It's important to build a community around the startups that can support them. Yes, another thing in building, for those of you that want to, properly support startups is that there's a very strong correlation between the success of the startup and the community of mentors they have around them, right? So another thing to note is that you don't have to have all the talents to support the startup within your hub, right? Speak to mentors. If you're running an accelerator or incubation program within a specific sector, right? Or even just generally, look for professionals and business people in your community to come and speak to the startups, to mentor them one-on-one. That is very important because what they're bringing on board is their industry experience, right? And their business skills to support the startups. Because unless you're hiring a team of 100 people, it's impossible to have talent or expertise for every single startup you employ. It might not even be about the sector, it might be about the particular field. So marketing, you bring a marketing, a top chief marketing officer, for example, from a large company to come and mentor the startup about market entry strategies, engaging customers, communicating, and all of that. So just as much as possible, keep building a community of mentors around the startup. So another community is an investor community, right? Identify investor community in your location, and if there aren't, right, they currently are angel investors across Africa, actually, in different cities. We're here in Nigeria as well. But if there isn't, then you can, work with other stakeholders to set one up, right, and convince people that have disposable income, high net worth individuals, to invest in the startups because this is quite important. And of course, building a community around them of talent, of data, and all that. But startups need to have a community to thrive. Then work with a going concern mindset. So you're always digitally looking forward, right? Then have a strategy that builds venture skills and the likes. Have tested models for revenue. Constantly test, right? Don't just give up and think, I'm running a non-profit, this model isn't working, constantly test different revenue models, constantly research, see what people are willing to pay for, whether they are paying for your programs directly as a grant, because at the end of the day, funders have targets to meet, so also talking to these development partners and asking them what is really your pain point, what are you trying to achieve? And they say, well, the fact is that they really are looking for a partner that can focus on training entrepreneurs that will build businesses that will create jobs, because jobs is their end goal, right? That's their mandate. Then you come to them and you come with a proposal that shows that, look, by the time you build X number of entrepreneurs, if 50% of them succeed or 40% succeed, they're likely to create maybe 10 jobs each or 20 jobs each over the next 6 months, or whatever the case is. If they have this amount of funding, we help you run this program, and you will get the numbers at the end of the day. Of course, you have to be realistic. That way, you're speaking to development pain points while also getting funding for your startup. But if you don't understand the development playbook, what are you going to do? You're going to say, well, entrepreneurship is important. Technology is the future. That is just going to like, I just want to meet my KPIs. Technology is really not my priority, right? So you have to find a way to speak to people in a way that is relevant to them, and these are ways of generating revenue. Same with whether you're running co-working spaces or you're, supplying talent, whatever the case is. And then be the go-to space for digital innovation. I mentioned earlier innovation first, right? Specifically digital-driven innovation. Let people know you for digital innovation in whatever niche that you focus on. Right? Yeah. So that's the end. As I said, it's foundational, so not going into details. But the good news is, at Afrilabs, we run this program called the Afrilabs Capacity Building Program. It's a 3-year program focused on building the capacity of hub managers, hub owners, managers, and staff, right, across Africa. And the program has different components. We've been running for the past 2 years, and this is the 3rd year. We run physical workshops, webinars, we fund hubs to execute projects, to execute their knowledge and all of that. I'll advise you to really go to our website. Our website is afrilabs.com. Sign up to our newsletter, and you constantly get information about the trainings and all of that. But then on the 18th of May, right, that's in about 2 weeks, we're launching our Afrilabs Academy. Now, Afrilabs Academy is an online platform we built, which will feature a full hub management curriculum, which we've developed with Strathmore University in Kenya. So it has different modules, right, structured like a proper, course. It has different modules from starting an innovation hub, innovation life cycle, to developing a business plan with various case studies. There are loads of resources on the case studies of successful hubs that have run business plan templates, financial plans, and the likes, to how to support ventures, product development, managing an early stage startup, all up to data stage startups and the like. So it basically has everything needed to run an innovation hub. And then how it works is that you take the courses online. It's interactive, it's engaging, it's a mix of videos and text and animation. And you can also learn with other hub managers across Africa. So as you're taking the course, you can also see learners that are taking the course as well, and then you can ask questions about their experiences and the likes. So we're launching this platform on the 18th of May. It will be virtual. That's the link to register. But then we can email you the link later. I think everyone put in their details, right? Yes, and I encourage you to attend the launch, and then after that, platform will be taken. Operational. But till then, thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope you found this useful. Yes, and please keep in touch. Right, for everything else, yeah. Okay, yes, questions.
Yes.
She's back.
Hold that. All right, so we're gonna have a few minutes and do Q&A, and then we run out. Yeah, we have to run out. So a few minutes for Q&A. I want to believe that she has already. So who else has questions? Let's do that now. Just raise your hand. Please raise your hand so I can take it. Okay, you. So ladies first, right?
Thank you, Magna. That was a very detailed presentation. I've learned one or two for our home. My question is about creating a sustainability plan. I didn't get that part. Like, how can we, maybe for us who have projects that fund the hub, and afterwards, how can we really have that sustainability plan in place so that the hub is running, pending on when we get another fund.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity. Please, I think we can start from the beginning. It's like, so I came in where it was niche and so real estate management hub. I am really particular about getting more details or resources towards that. I appreciate it. Okay.
Has that question too?
We'll pass it to co-op.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your presentation. And my question is on the Afrilabs Academy. Okay, I'm interested already. I want to know what it will take for one to participate.
All right. So let's start with this one.
Oh, okay. Yes, so as I mentioned, we have a launch on the 18th, and I encourage you to register for the launch and attend. It is virtual, right? And then we'll share details on how to actually take the course online, right? Which is basically just sign up and then you start with filling a questionnaire about your profile and everything, and you register for the course. We'll share more details at the launch. Yeah, so for now, I mean, if you register, then we'll email you the details. Yeah, then the question on sustainability, well, I'll say that I don't have all the answers because I really know your business more than you. But that's why I mentioned developing a business plan, right? Or even if you've already been running for a number of years, still developing a sustainable plan, which helps you sustainability plan, which really breaks down your different target groups, what's of value to them, and what products or services or solutions you can offer to them, right? Once you do that, and there are different ways of doing that. You can carry out, from market analysis, studying the market, and then doing the market segmentation, doing a SWOT analysis as well, right? So you identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. Doing an industry analysis as well. So what's happening in your industry, right? I mean, industry trends also guide you in developing a sustainability plan because you're developing strategies that will help you generate more income or attract more funding based on what's important in your industry as well. So these are all, then people do your competitor analysis. I mean, we don't like to use the word competitors in the ecosystem, but it's basically just identifying what others are doing in your field and then what unique offering you're going to offer that is different from theirs, right? Because at the end of the day, you are trying to convince people to work with you as well. So they're just different factors to consider. I could send you a template to use. Or advise you to sign up because Afrilabs Academy has all the templates basically that you can download and use to determine how to do this. But it really requires you doing a deep dive in understanding your business model, your market, your industry, your internal strengths, and what you can leverage on that will bring you the money, basically. But as I said earlier, you have to think as a business.
Thank you.
All right. The third question.
Oh, okay, yes. I said that we would
to start from the beginning.
Yeah, no, start from the beginning, but he also mentioned, of course, we can't start from the beginning because of time. But the question on real estate, I wouldn't say we have models on setting up the co-working space and running it, right? Most of our focus is actually on supporting entrepreneurs and talent and all of that, but there are people that you can network with and learn from their model, like our representative here for co-work. Yes, they've successfully run office yeah, co-working space, office rentals, and all of that. So we also share as well. All right, but I would say still understanding your markets is important. So market research is really a long way. So speak to who you can speak to different groups of people, startups, corporates, the likes, people that would likely want to attract your space. Of course, how you will design the space determines who you attract, right? And then we're also doing the market analysis. So what's out there? What are they charging? So you check different spaces. So you're benchmarking and then speaking to them about whether they would be willing to pay, what they need in the space, the internet, the private offices, exclusivity. In some cases, people just want the office address actually to mail their, their
To receive
to receive correspondences, and they can list as a legitimate business. Because when you're running a startup, you have to have a legitimate business. And usually those ones you just work from their houses, and then when they have important business meetings or they need an address for correspondences, they come to your space, right? So there are different services you can offer. Then even the categorization of space, so there's hot desk, there's private office, there's sheds, and there's just so much out there. But you really need to understand your environment and what people are willing to pay for. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Anna. That's like the much we can take in terms of questions because we have to round up now. But we're still coming back later in the day for the handout, and we have the opportunity to ask even more questions, right, regarding running a hotspot. In the evening, we're going to have a lot more. We're going to do beyond just discussing hub. We're discussing startups and startups functioning within hubs. How do you build a startup? How do you network with investors? You'll see some startups actually trying to pitch their product, pitch their business basically, and then you see some, uh, like I tell people usually, they're angel investors around, right? So those of you, those people who build startup, I mean, you get to speak to angel investors. I'm talking about angel investors. What we talked about the fact that you need to network, and also have to that again, right? Um, if you are in the region, Southeast Asian Network is actually interested in the region. So if you're involved in the region, you can speak to me. And we can look at how to work together to help to fund the startups that we build. So Sean has been investing in startups um, across this region in the last 3 years. So some of the biggest startups in Nigeria we invested in, and some of them from the region we also invested in them. So part of what all of this is about is a lot of us we have a lot of resources within that a lot of us don't know about. So we're hoping that with this, after this set of programs, we'll be able to begin to collaborate a lot more closely in order to make the most of the resources we have and build a better ecosystem across the region. So that's in a nutshell is one of the goals for this conversation, so that we can highlight and spotlight Port Harcourt and by extension the region as a startup destination with the collaboration of hubs. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming. We will have to quickly announce, but not before we've taken a group photograph, and we'll do a group photograph, and then we'll take up so that when I see, we look at the pictures, we can remember that we attended, and it's easy. We see me tomorrow, or we see ourselves. It's easy to say, "Oh, I was in that program. I'm the one wearing the blue jacket, or I'm the one wearing." So let's have the a group picture as quickly as possible so we can go back and then return back by 5 p.m. Let me, to be honest with you, this place can sit like 50 people. We have more than 20 people registered. So we are not, you can see like today we had close to 90 people registered, right? And we have spaces here, you get? Which means a lot of people who registered in turn up. People that say they're sure, they're sure. So because of that, we're not basically, it's open. It's going to be like, if you come in early, but just to let you know that this evening is going to be, it's going to be very, very interesting. It's the second edition of this. Some of you may have seen the picture from the previous edition. It was very interesting, and like Delight said, it's going to be like the regular program we just read on a monthly basis because we have want to do photography.
Please,
We already have.
we want to bring this one. Once we rearrange that side, take a better picture.
Oh, I see. Well, we can do all this in 5 minutes.
Yes, so if we give us the floor.
So you can be doing that now. So that's it. Thank you, everyone. So we can start streaming now.